We have what's now about a 10,000 square foot yard in the middle of Santa Barbara, California. We are in constant flux of projects, from trailers to sprinters to Westphalia to anything mobile. These are shells. There's not much in these yet. I think this project just started. Airstreams really pioneered the idea of the travel trailer, back in the early 1900s. In the back you can see a bunk bed which is being installed over a larger kind of trundle bed underneath. It was the concept of getting out, experiencing the great outdoors, but keeping it's not quite camping, but it's something, a little bit more of the amenities that you like at home, and then to get out, experience the outdoors. This is for an Australian client, and this is probably about 50% through with the build. You got a lot of the rough carpentry done, and the walls are up. This is interesting. This is a nice color combination. Whenever you get a unit, you see a little bit of history, because every prior user kind of put their flair into it. This is original, this cabinetry here, and this will all be reconditioned. Right now it's in the condition that it was when we got it here. We haven't touched this yet. A lot of times you strip them completely, but a lot of the interior, there's a lot of parts that are really nice that kind of carry a nice sensitivity to them. So by using those parts in the design, it kind of plays off of one another. Then you have your kind of standard dinette up here with a table that's going to drop down, and it looks like a pretty big bed. What will be a pretty big bed. This is going to be a king bed, I think. This is going to be for an Australian family of 5, and they're going to tour the outback.
To live?
To live, to kind of living life intentionally. If we had a battery and we could hook up to these wires right here, then these would both come in at the same time. They're on linear actuators, and this converts with just a push of a button into kind of a crash pad, a bed back here.
Exactly is a linear actuator?
It's an electronic device that pushes out. It just extends. It's a pole that extends, and so you have it's like a drawer, a self-extending drawer, and these two pieces just automatically come out. You push a button. We're all after a sense of freedom. It's really the driver on the great American road trip, really. Not being kind of a slave to your work or something that other people think you should be doing, but getting out with your family, living with the people that you want to be with. Vacations, that's like a little form of freedom, but this is like a lifestyle. This is a choice. It's more fundamental than that. So this guy here, this is not an Airstream. This is what's called a Spartan travel trailer. And this was a little bit more permanent, more like a mobile home instead of a travel trailer. So they're designed to be brought to a location and then kind of parked. I mean, they're beautiful. Look at just the detailing on all this. So they still carry a lot of the design strength. So this one's designed to be, it'll be a kind of a vacation house. It's going to go in Hawaii. This is the kitchen. You see here a lot of reclaimed natural materials. This is reclaimed teak. One of our concepts with everything we design is that we don't want to see the technology. It can be very distracting. It can make the space feel smaller and cluttered. So when we have something like a modern appliance, we hide it inside of our teak wall. So all you see is just this line. Same thing here, this bed, this couch, what will be a couch, this will extend straight out automatically. You push a button, it just comes out. A lot of RV manufacturers, they love technology, they build it in, they put LED lights everywhere and then glow panels and this and that, and everything's moving. We want to simplify it, make it natural, make it beautiful, but give yourself all of the technology without any of the visual clutter. Yeah, all this is reclaimed. The concept here was the juxtaposition of very weathered and then refined. So, for example, you have this very natural, rough cork wall that the owner's going to use to put in some push pins right up against a very refined, reflective. It almost makes the space feel much bigger than it is because it reflects up into the ceiling. And then that's right up against, the metal, which is a very refined material, going back to a very unrefined material, reclaimed teak, and then coming over to a mahogany, which again is a very refined material. So it's balancing those two and seeing, how they interact with one another. It's just amazing how much it just goes right up into the ceiling. You can't really see where the ceiling stops in the, you can only see it because, my hand comes up and then, and it's kind of nice how the patina, or at least it's not completely reflective, so it doesn't read as a mirror. It just kind of disappears into the ceiling there. I think it's really nice. Back here, this transitions into the private living space. This side, this is a pantry for the kitchen, a closet. This is your dresser, built-in dresser for all your clothing. And then there will be a surface sliding barn door, very thick, rustic, with some nice heavy hardware up on top here that slides to the side. And then that reveals the bathroom. And there'll be a lot of nice Moroccan tile inside of this bathroom. Yeah, we put a lot of tile in these units. You've got to be careful about weight and also the flexibility of it. There's this whole kind of delicate balance about how you go about installing tile inside of a unit that's always going to be moving, and also keeping the weight down, but making sure that it stays put and it doesn't constantly come off the walls. So that's a little bit of trailer magic. This is a built-in bed. There's a lot of storage underneath this unit. This drawer comes way out. You can put a lot of stuff in there. There's also a lot of mechanical underneath this bed for water heaters or for gas appliances or other storage compartments accessed from the outside. These projects are all units that have either just come in or they just started the renovation process. This is one of our polishing bays. As Airstream's an 80-year-old company, they were manufactured by the same guys that worked on the Spirit of St. Louis. They look like aircraft for a reason. They're designed off of aircraft. You can see the interior skins have been removed, so you can see how these things are built. Airstreams are like an egg. They're what's called semi-monocoque construction, which is like, it's an airplane. So that creates the integrity as a whole. So everything moves together. Okay, so there are no walls, there are no roofs, there are no diaphragms that create load, but it's all one unit. It needs to be whole. And then once you start to do things like cutting out panels or moving stuff here, then it really becomes a design challenge, because you remove that one side and then everything changes. You really have to start considering shear and transfer and how stuff moves, especially considering that these are going to be moving down the freeway at 60, 70 miles, 55 miles an hour in California. It's a lot to think about. It's not every day you take your house and you move it down and you're going over potholes and bouncing up and down, and it's a lot of consideration in how you design and build these things. For example, here is a food truck where we cut off the back end of it and then made a bar. The food vendor will be up in here serving. They'll have coffee machines and then dispensaries, and there's some cold storage underneath here. But that's a door right there that they'll be able to access or pass food to and from to the outside, and then engage with the consumer on a really nice level. Something about Airstreams is they got this great shell, but it really impacts the user experience if you're interacting with someone who's inside of the trailer. How do you order from an Airstream? I mean, you have these windows all around. I mean, here's a window. I've seen this done many times, where they take the window and then they take that off, and now you're ordering from a small porthole. But there's really no interaction with that. You have this. I mean, look at this. You can have two people out here. I mean, visually, it's just great. So this gives you the idea of how someone would interact with a user. If I was serving you food, there'd be a deck down there, so you'd be a little bit higher up. But this is just one of the examples of stuff that gets done with these things now.
They call it a land yacht.
Yeah, land yacht. It's the concept of the boat's a very luxurious. You get out on the water and get on your yacht. But the land yacht, the idea of the land yacht, the luxury travel trailer. You can see how they were sensitive about branding that and what the market they were going after. What began as folks traveling in their Model Ts, and then you'd take a tent and then use the side of your car as the framework for your tent, and then build 3 other sides of your tent and you sleep there. And then eventually the back of the vehicle opened up into something, and then that was your sleeping area. That grew into small trailers where you wouldn't really have anything on it, but it'd be a pod that you'd take around with you, and just that natural evolution of the trailer, here you are. I love this. I love the reflection of all these materials, kind of how that just blends in and disappears. I mean, it's not completely mirrored, but you kind of lose the sense of reality as it trails off into the distance there.
And is it more efficient traveling down the road? Is there reason why you'd use this over kind of modern RV?
Quality. It's much more rigid. It doesn't degrade like fiberglass or wood. A lot of travel trailers are built out of wood, and you've got these great classic, other branded trailers from the 50s or 40s, and if they were built out of wood, they're not around anymore because the wood studs in between the fiberglass walls have all rotted out. What you've got on Airstreams is an aluminum skin on the outside, which you see, and then you have ribs about every 2.5 feet, and then you have another piece of aluminum skin on the inside. So even if you get water in there from one of the seams, it drips down onto the inside skin and then goes down and then out the side on the bottom end. And then there's only fiberglass insulation in there, so there's nothing to attract or hold in moisture. And it's all aluminum, so it'll oxidize and it might corrode a little. It's not steel. It's not going to rust. The chassis are made out of steel, and there's some issues in there, but everything from the floor plate up is aluminum in the construction. That's steel. You can see a little bit of rust there. If they're in wet climates, the steel does tend to rust out.
What do you look for when you're buying one of these?
When you go buy a trailer, you can't really see all of the conditions because they're hidden. So you can't look for the rust because the person that's selling the trailer isn't going to let you cut a hole in their trailer to look for rust. So instead of looking for the condition, you have to look for symptoms. And symptoms might be corrosion on the skin, or there's some pieces and parts where you can look in by the wheel wells to see if this was located in a overly wet climate. This is a great example of what it looks like when we first get it. Okay, here's a very classic, this is a 1957 Airstream Overlander. I think this is in good shape. You'd be surprised how scary these things can be.
The parts are, is this common that there was?
Yeah, the aftermarket part, it's very rare that you find a unit that's completely original. They exist, they're out there. A lot of people take a lot of pride in their original trailers. The bed is somewhat original. These are all original parts. But once you look at this, there's kind of a point of no return with certain elements. So, for example, you could take the overhead cabinet structure, not necessarily these panels, this is all aftermarket, but this is still in good shape. That's an original element. So you could take that piece, get rid of this wall, for example, and just have this nice, long, linear overhead cabinetry piece, put some new door fronts on, and then just keep this nice natural curve. That's beautiful. And also you have to question from a functional standpoint. That's not the best functioning drawer. You have to question. It's like driving a vintage Porsche. People have these expectations. They see the vintage Porsche from a distance, and then they say, wow, that's beautiful. And then they have in their head an idea of something that's beautiful, and they vision themselves driving in the vintage Porsche. And they say, okay, that dream is really nice. But what they fail to realize is that it's rattling. And there's air coming inside of the cracks, and then the weather stripping is falling apart, and then the sound is, it's more an experience. It's much more tangible too. When you live in a vintage unit, or if you accept the vintage quality, or what parts you accept, it's gonna have a little bit of character. It's not gonna function to the standards that we expect. That's a boundary. How much do you accept of that, and then how much do you change? The question's simple with this. A, does it work? And B, can you use it again? Then it's an easy answer. Of course, we love to reuse stuff. If it still has a lifespan, we don't like throwing things away. That's why we design in these trailers. What's kind of a testament to the fundamental design is that a lot of the interiors aren't in great shape because people didn't take very good care of them. But no matter how poorly they took care of them, if they didn't ding them up or damage them or drag them across a pole or a tree, the outsides can still be polished up. Like, look at this one, for example. This looks pretty messed up. You know, it's got a bunch of different colors and patinas and some white stuff, and it looks like scratches and nicks and dings, but this will polish up as good as any trailer, and it'll look brand new when it's done. It's just the beauty of the material aluminum. You can breathe life back into it. And you're not actually doing anything. All you're doing is you're just pushing down the peaks into the valleys with this compound, and you're making at a microscopic level all this irregularities are just a bit smoother. And you're not taking off any metal once you polish. It's just moving stuff around. When redesigning a trailer, there's a lot of flexibility, but there's also a lot of fundamental things that you have to drive the project by. Primarily weight and distributed weight, because trailers, they have to balance themselves out. If you look at this, this is like a seesaw. You have a pivot point in the center, and if you have all of your weight to one side, for the back, for example, the whole thing is going to tilt up. So when you design this thing, you can't put a bunch of bricks in the back and expect it to travel down the road. It's a sensitive, kind of moving organism. You're designing within a shell. You're designing within a set, kind of governed space. If you were to cut a hole in the side of this thing, it would lose all of its shear strength because it's no longer continuous. Not to say you can't move windows, but to find a successful solution, you have to consider the existing variables. What is it? What are the window heights? What are the ceiling heights? What can and can't you do? What you see here is a Westphalia, our project manager for our company actually calls this home. He lives in here. Kind of a man after my own heart. I lived in a trailer for about a year when I first started this company, and it's so beautiful and simple. And the overhead's low, the life is easy.
How were you able to park yours, and could you legally put it somewhere?
It was legal, yeah. This was a temporary thing. About 5 years ago, we had a lot of fires, wildfires here in Santa Barbara. They burnt down about somewhere between 200 and 400 homes. And at that time, the city was issuing temporary trailer permits for the owners to place travel trailers on their properties while the process of determining what was going to be done with the house or whether they were rebuilding. So, you know, I had a friend, their house burnt down, and then I negotiated. I was helping them do some work for their house, and I had a trailer with an ocean view.
Could you do that same thing now? Is there a place you could park it?
That's something that we need to figure out in our culture. It's just a stigma. It's not this lifestyle that's really the trailer trash lifestyle, you know, whatever that is. It's all the perception. You know, this is elegant. There's this reason that we're doing this. It's a choice. It's flexibility. It's a choice. It's a perception. What's freedom? It's being able to do what you want to do, whatever that is. You know.
And being on wheels makes it more flexible, like
mobile. You know, it's mobile. It's mobility. You know, one of the things we associate with freedom is if you know, we're humans. We're crazy. You know, I want to do one thing one day, and I'm like, oh, wow, I want to do something completely different the next day. If I own a house with 5 bedrooms and a mortgage, when I'm paying $5,000 a month on it, you know, you got a big anchor or a ball and chain. A house on wheels, we as humans can embrace the fact that we like to change our minds, or, you know, wake up one day feeling a little bit on edge, wanting to get out, stop doing what we're doing and experience something new, or migrate somewhere else and experience another culture. You know, God forbid we actually change